The first time the lights flickered, I thought it was just the power grid. The second time, I realized she had stopped chewing. Her fork hovered in the air, mid-bite, like a freeze frame in a movie. She was looking at me, not confused, not even concerned, just calculating. Like a mirror trying to remember what it used to reflect. We hadn't spoken in 5 minutes. The restaurant was filled with noise, plates clinking, glasses toasting, couples murmuring about weekend plans. But at our table, silence was doing all the talking. The wine glass left a red ring on the napkin. I'd been watching it dry like it was the only thing keeping me sane. Then came the question, "Why are you so quiet tonight?" Her voice was soft, innocent even, but it was that kind of soft that hides razors beneath velvet. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to, God, did I want to, but I needed to be sure I wouldn't shake when I spoke. I needed control. She always said I was too dramatic, so I wanted this moment to be surgical, precise. I reached down, beneath the table, and unzipped the side pocket of my jacket. My fingers brushed the envelope, thin, crumpled, and damp with sweat. The name written on the front wasn't mine. It was hers, but the handwriting wasn't. That envelope had been taped beneath our bathroom sink cabinet, behind the cleaning supplies. She must have thought I'd never reach for bleach, and honestly, she was right. Until last Sunday. Inside it was a letter, folded twice, torn at the corner, and in it, a hotel room number, a time, a name I didn't recognize, and a sentence that made my ears ring for 20 straight minutes. He still has no idea. I almost feel bad. That sentence has been living behind my eyes ever since. Now, back to dinner. Her fork still hadn't touched the plate, and I still hadn't answered. I looked around the restaurant. No one noticed the war happening at our table. That's the cruel trick of betrayal. It's silent. You bleed internally. You die standing up. I looked into her eyes. Deep, cold, familiar. And I finally said, slowly, because the bleach wasn't even the worst part. Her smile faltered for half a second. Just half. And that half second was all I needed to know. She knew exactly what I meant. The fork finally hit the plate, but she didn't take the bite. She set it down gently, as if she knew anything louder than a whisper would shatter whatever fake reality we'd built around this dinner. I watched her lips part slightly. She was about to speak, maybe explain, maybe lie, maybe do that thing where she turned everything into my fault. But then she just smiled. Not a soft, guilty smile. Not an "I'm caught" kind of smile. But something worse. A smile that said, "So what if you know?" That's when I realized this wasn't new to her. The lying, the secret compartments in our life, the parallel existence she'd been managing right under my nose. This wasn't a panic moment for her. This was sport. I had simply caught up to the score. I didn't say anything else at the table. She kept eating, like we hadn't just dropped a bomb between the breadsticks and the risotto. When the check came, she reached for her card first, still playing the part, still pretending nothing had changed. I didn't stop her. I just stared at her hands as she signed the receipt, wondering how many lives those fingers had touched without me knowing. We walked to the car in silence. The restaurant parking lot was mostly empty now. A few couples walked out behind us, laughing, stumbling slightly from too much Merlot and not enough accountability. I unlocked the car, but didn't get in. I stood there, holding the door handle, looking at the reflection of her face in the driver's side window. "You want to talk now?" she asked, folding her arms. Her voice wasn't soft anymore. There was steel in it, like I was the one who had messed up her night. "You left a letter in a place I wasn't supposed to look," I said. "You wrote about me like I was a child, like some poor, clueless idiot. Was that part fun for you?" She didn't answer, just tilted her head slightly, like she was doing mental math on how much truth I actually knew. "I'm not interested in denials," I added, stepping closer. "I'm interested in how long this has been going on, and how many people know I'm the punchline." A car drove by. Headlights swept across us and faded. Still, she didn't speak. But her expression shifted, not toward guilt, not even toward anger. Something more dangerous. Pity. "I never meant to hurt you, Cal," she finally said. "I just stopped recognizing myself in our life. It felt like I was walking through someone else's house every day." "So you broke the windows instead of using the front door?" That made her flinch. A tiny one. Almost imperceptible, but I saw it. And I cherished it. She looked down, fiddling with her bracelet, one I had bought her 2 anniversaries ago. I used to think it meant something. Now I saw it for what it was, Costume jewelry in the theater of pretending. I'll tell you everything, she whispered. But not here. That made me laugh. It came out dry and bitter. Not here? Why? Are we too close to where the truth might echo? She stepped closer, suddenly desperate. Please don't turn this into a scene. And there it was. The word that exposed everything. Scene. Because to her, that's all it ever was. A play. A script. A carefully curated image of love, comfort, trust, all while the real story played out offstage. You made me a prop, I said. You made our life set design. And the worst part is, I don't think you're sorry. She opened her mouth to respond, but just then her phone buzzed. Loud. Obnoxious. A text. She didn't check it fast enough. I saw the name flash across the screen. Silas. Not a name I knew. Not a friend. Not family. Just one word. Just 6 letters. But it detonated something inside me. You're still in touch with him, I muttered. Even now. Even after this. Marin's face drained of color. It's not what you think. And I just stared at her, finally letting the bitterness show. It never is. Until it is. She reached for my arm. Please, let's go home and talk. But I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Because in that moment, I knew something terrifying. I wasn't done finding out what she'd been hiding. And I wasn't sure I'd survive it. She called my name 3 times in the parking lot, but I didn't respond. I got in the car, turned the ignition, and stared straight ahead. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. My brain just couldn't pick a thought. Everything felt foggy, like I was dreaming while fully awake. She slid into the passenger seat, fastened her seatbelt with a little too much force, and let out a sigh that sounded rehearsed. As if I was the one who ruined the night. The drive home was quiet. She didn't try to explain the text. Maybe she assumed I'd forgotten already, like all the other things she'd silently edited out of our life. I kept seeing that name on the screen. Silas. Not common. Not accidental. The kind of name that stays with you. It sounded fictional, theatrical even, like the antagonist in a Southern Gothic novel. Silas. I rolled it around in my head like a marble I couldn't drop. We got home around 10:40. Milo, our dog, didn't run up to greet us like he usually did. Marin walked past him like a ghost and went straight upstairs without a word. I watched her feet on each step. Controlled. Cold. Not a trace of panic. It was as if this had all happened before and she'd already memorized her lines. I stayed downstairs for a while. Poured a drink. Just one. Sat on the couch where the bobby pin had once been. That weird little gold pin had cracked open my world like an egg. Funny how it's never the obvious stuff. It's always something small. A stray hair. A receipt that wasn't yours. The smell of a cologne that doesn't belong to anyone in your house. Eventually, I went up. The bedroom door was half closed. The light was off, but the bathroom glowed behind a thin crack. She was in there, probably brushing her teeth, pretending we were still just 2 people winding down for the night. I didn't want to see her just yet. I went to the guest room instead, the one we only use when her sister visits once every leap year. Dust on the dresser. Window slightly ajar. I closed it quietly, then turned on the bedside lamp. Not because I needed light. I just needed the noise of it clicking on. Then I noticed the drawer wasn't flush. It sat slightly open, maybe half an inch. Probably nothing. Probably a stuck hoodie or an old birthday card. But I opened it anyway. Slowly. Inside, beneath a stack of her scarves, was a manila folder. Not labeled. Just sitting there like it wanted to be found. My heart thumped in that way your body tries to warn you before you break your own soul. I pulled it out, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened it. Photos. Printed. Glossy. Too real. Her and him. Silas, I presumed. Standing beside her on a dock somewhere I didn't recognize. Her arms wrapped around his neck. His hand resting on her waist like it had always belonged there. Her eyes were closed in one photo, smiling. The same smile she used to give me when we were just kids in love, drunk on each other, before the job promotions, and couples therapy, and invisible cracks. There were more. One of them in a bookstore. Another on a city rooftop. All candid, all unmistakably intimate. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some one-night lapse in judgment. This was a relationship. This was someone she had a second life with. The last photo, that one gutted me. It was Marin, standing in front of a door. A motel door. Room 214. The kind with peeling paint and a dent in the number plate. She was wearing one of my shirts, one I hadn't seen in weeks. Her head was tilted back, laughing. Silas was behind her, snapping the picture. And just beneath that photo, tucked like a bookmark, was a receipt. Room 214. 2 nights. Paid in cash. From 3 days ago. My fingers trembled. Not from anger. From grief. From the kind of hollow that forms when you realize the person you trusted most has been slowly writing you out of the story, and doing it with a smile. I heard the bathroom door open down the hall. Her footsteps padded toward our bedroom. Light off. Quiet again. She was pretending to sleep, no doubt, hoping this night would end without more questions. But it wasn't going to end, because I wasn't done. I put the photos back in the folder, closed the drawer, and walked back to our room. She was curled up under the blanket, facing the wall. I stood in the doorway for a long time before I spoke. You went to the trouble of printing them, I said. That's what surprises me most. She didn't move. I stepped inside, my voice quieter now. People who feel guilty don't keep trophies. Still nothing. I found the folder, Marin, and I saw the motel receipt. So this is your chance to say something that isn't rehearsed. She slowly turned toward me. Her face was blank. No tears. Just stillness. And then she said, if you saw everything, then you know it's already too late to fix it. No apology. No denial. Just confirmation. The kind that doesn't come with closure. The kind that unthreads your reality for good. For a long time, neither of us said anything. Just the sound of the ceiling fan creaking gently above us, and Milo pacing restlessly downstairs, as if he, too, sensed that something between us had split open and couldn't be closed again. I didn't sit down. I stood in the middle of the room like a question mark, waiting for her to fold into guilt or fury or something that resembled emotion. But Marin just lay there, her face blank in that pale wash of hallway light, like she was watching the final scene of a movie she'd already seen 10 times. I don't even know what to ask you, I muttered eventually, my voice thinner than I expected. You don't need to ask, she said. You already know more than I ever planned on you knowing. That phrase lodged in my chest like a nail. More than I ever planned. Not everything. Not the truth. Just more. Meaning, there was still something buried. I sat at the edge of the bed, not facing her. My hands were shaking again, just slightly. In that way you try to hide from yourself, like a nervous tick you hope isn't permanent. How long? I asked. She hesitated. Not the kind of hesitation that comes from guilt, but the kind that comes from calculation, deciding how much she could say without making it worse. About a year, she said finally. Give or take. I blinked slowly, like my brain had gone into power-saving mode. A year. She nodded. I laughed, bitterly. So when we went to Asheville last fall, when you cried at the Overlook and said you'd never felt closer to me, what was that? Just good acting? Marin didn't answer, which told me everything. A whole year. While I was still making her coffee every morning, still recording her favorite reality shows, still booking couples massages and looking at albums for weekends away, she was building a second life with a man I hadn't even heard of until 24 hours ago. Who is he? I asked. My voice cracked slightly, and I hated that it did. Who is Silas? She looked at me like that question was too small, like it didn't even scratch the surface. You wouldn't understand, she said softly, almost like she pitied me. Silas isn't someone you define with words like who or what. He's just different. Different how? Is he in a cult? Are you? What the hell does that even mean? She sat up slowly, brushing her hair back behind one ear. He's not a boyfriend. Not exactly. He's not a fling either. I didn't mean for it to start. But the moment I met him, it was like I saw everything I'd been pretending to live without. I stared at her. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, she said. It's supposed to make you stop thinking this is about you. My breath caught. It wasn't the words, it was the way she said them. So casual. So final. Where did you meet him? I asked, already dreading the answer. She looked away, chewing on her lip. At the market. The Saturday one, near the river. He was selling handmade knives. I was looking at radishes. That answer broke me in a way I didn't expect. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was so ordinary. So insultingly mundane. I had imagined something torrid, mysterious, cinematic, but it was radishes. She was picking produce, and our marriage began to end right there in front of the cucumbers. He gave me one, she added after a pause. A knife. Said it was for truth and blood. I thought it was just some weird artisan joke. But I kept it. I turned to her, slow. You kept a knife from a stranger who said it was for truth and blood, and that didn't raise any red flags? She didn't even blink. You're acting like you haven't been half asleep in this marriage for years, Callum. Like you didn't check out first. That landed harder than it should have. Mostly because I had. I'd been coasting. Work, food, errands, half kisses, shared laundry. I'd been present, but never really there. Maybe I'd assumed we'd be okay just because we always had been. I didn't think it gave her a pass to build a secret world, but it did explain the cracks. Still, there was something wrong with the way she talked about him. Not romantic. Not even lustful. It was reverent. As if Silas wasn't just a man. As if he had become a belief. I swallowed hard. Did you love him? I don't know what I felt, she whispered. But it made me feel alive in a way you stopped doing years ago. The room stretched out around us like elastic about to snap. I didn't know what I hated more, her answer, or the fact that some part of me understood it. I want to meet him, I said suddenly. She laughed. That same cold, dismissive laugh she used when customer service put her on hold too long. You don't just meet Silas. I'm serious. If you're going to blow up our life for someone, I want to see the man who made you forget it. Her face shifted. Not fear, but unease. The first flicker of it. You don't want to go looking for him, Callum. Why? What's he going to do? Enlighten me into ruining my own life, too? She got quiet. So quiet I could hear the hum of the air vent above us. Then she said it. He already knows you exist. I stared, and she added. He asked about you. Said your name. Said you'd come eventually. He said my name. I kept repeating that in my head as I lay awake that night. Eyes fixed on the ceiling fan spinning above me, turning over her words like they were code. He already knows you exist. He asked about you. People don't say things like that unless they want you to break apart. And she knew it would unravel me. I think that was part of the delivery. Not malice, not cruelty, but calculation. Like she was trying to warn me and wound me at the same time. She fell asleep an hour later. Or at least she pretended to. I could tell from the rhythm of her breathing that she was forcing it. Faking rest. That made two of us. By 2:30 a.m. I was back in the guest room, staring at the manila folder again, the photos spread out on the bed like evidence from a case that hadn't been solved yet. I examined every detail now, the backgrounds, the shadows, even the reflections in storefront windows. I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking past her. I wanted to see him. His face was never clearly visible, always obscured, turned away, or half in motion. A blurred cheek here, the curve of a jaw. He wore neutral clothes, nondescript shoes. His presence in the photos felt almost parasitic, like he had slipped into the scenes rather than been part of them. And then I noticed something. In one of the pictures, the one in the bookstore, there was a reflection in the window. Not his, not hers, but mine. I froze. It was faint, barely visible in the corner. But it was me. My coat, my hair, my posture. Standing outside, looking in. I never went to that bookstore. Not with her. Not ever. I zoomed in. Checked the metadata. The timestamp said it was taken at 3:17 p.m. on a Thursday 2 months ago. I was at work then, or so I thought. But now my brain wouldn't let it go. Had I walked by? Was I on lunch? Had I caught them and just not registered it? Or had someone inserted me into that frame? That's when I started to panic. Not the kind of panic with heavy breathing and pacing. This was colder. Thinner. The kind that wraps around your spine and quietly squeezes. I shut the folder and stood up. Suddenly, I needed to see the knife. The one she said Silas gave her. Truth and blood. That ridiculous phrase. It had to be in the house somewhere, unless she'd hidden it, which, considering how carefully she hid her other life, was probably the case. I searched everywhere. Hall closet, laundry room, even under the floorboards in the pantry, where we once hid a cash box during a renovation. Nothing. Then I remembered the attic. It was barely an attic, more of a crawl space, accessible by one of those awkward ceiling panels in the hallway. I hadn't been up there in over a year. Dust, old decorations, forgotten boxes. I grabbed the stepladder, clicked on the hallway light, and pulled the hatch open. The air that came down was stale and strangely warm. I climbed up slowly, flashlight in hand. The moment my head passed through the opening, I saw it. Not the knife, not even a box, but a photograph, pinned to one of the beams. Just one. It was a printed, high-resolution image. The kind you'd get from a professional camera. But it wasn't of Marin or Silas. It was of me, sleeping, in our bed, alone. The angle was from the corner of the room, the spot behind our dresser. I never kept cameras there. We didn't even own a tripod. My phone was always beside me when I slept. This wasn't from security footage. This was taken by someone in the room. Someone standing there, watching me. I stumbled back, nearly falling off the ladder. My flashlight hit the wall and spun before I caught it. I pulled the photo down, hands shaking. There was something written on the back in small, perfect handwriting. You dream with your jaw clenched. What are you holding in? No signature. No date. Just that. I didn't wake Marin. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. Because something deeper was happening now, something I couldn't explain with words like affair or betrayal. This wasn't just about love, or cheating, or even heartbreak. This was about surveillance, about manipulation, about being seen without knowing. And the worst part? There was a corner of me, some tiny, traitorous part, that wasn't surprised. I sat in the dark for an hour, holding that photo, wondering how long someone had been watching us, wondering what else they had taken, wondering who Silas really was, and how the hell he knew my name before I ever knew his. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a second. I sat in the kitchen until morning, the photograph of myself asleep clenched in one hand, the flashlight still on the table, flickering every so often like it was dying along with my understanding of reality. Around 6:10 a.m., I heard Marin moving upstairs, quiet footsteps across the bedroom floor, the rustle of fabric, the familiar zip of her hoodie. She didn't come looking for me. She never did anymore. When I finally stood, my legs ached like I'd aged 10 years in a single night. I didn't go to work. I didn't even bother to message anyone. For the first time in my adult life, I simply vanished from my responsibilities. And strangely, no one called. Not my manager, not my mother, not even Derek, the one friend I had left, who usually checked in if I was even 5 minutes late to our weekly video calls. The silence felt curated, like the world had been placed on mute without my permission. I spent the morning checking every inch of the house for more signs. Every drawer, every cabinet, even the backs of picture frames. I tore up floorboards in the garage, sifted through boxes of old taxes and Christmas ornaments. I found nothing else. But somehow that was worse. It made the photo feel deliberate, singular, like it had been planted, waiting for the exact moment it would hurt the most. By noon, I was driving. I didn't have a destination, just the name, Silas. It echoed in my mind like a code word. I typed it into every search engine I could think of. Silas plus handmade knives. Silas plus river market. Silas plus Marin. Silas plus room 214. I found nothing definitive. No business listings. No social media accounts. A couple of old obituaries, one for a 93-year-old in Idaho. Nothing that connected. Nothing that made sense. Until I tried something stupid. I opened an old email account I hadn't used since college. One I used when I signed up for conspiracy forums back when I was bored and anxious and 17. It was full of junk, old newsletters, spam from survival gear websites. But buried inside, there was a message, unread, sent 3 days ago. Subject line, "We see you." I almost deleted it without opening it. But something about the timing and the way it had made it past all the spam filters made my stomach twist. I clicked. There was no body text, no link, no threat, just an image. Another photograph of me. This time, I was standing at the sink in our kitchen, shirtless, pouring coffee. Same angle, same perfect framing, taken from inside the house. I dropped my phone. It slid across the floor and hit the cabinet with a thud. And then something inside me shifted. Not fear, not rage. Something stranger, something colder. A part of me that had been dormant, or maybe buried, began to surface. I went upstairs, walked into the bedroom. Marin was lying on the bed, reading. She didn't look surprised to see me. Didn't even blink. Where did he take the pictures from? I asked calm. Too calm. She looked up slowly. What pictures? You know what pictures? She sat up. If you're talking about the attic photo, I don't know. I told you, I don't control him. You say that like he's supernatural. She didn't respond. I stepped closer. You say that like he's not just a man you met at a farmer's market. He's not. Then what is he? She stared at me, long and slow, then said, I think you already know. You're just not ready to remember. That stopped me. What does that mean? I asked. She stood, walked toward the dresser, opened the second drawer. I expected another photo, another weapon, another file. But instead, she pulled out something I hadn't seen in years. A small red notebook. My notebook. From before we were married. I used to write in it when I had panic attacks. I'd scribble thoughts, fragments, dreams, and sometimes entire pages of nonsense just to get the noise out of my head. I found this last week, she said, handing it to me. You were in the garage. You didn't notice me, but I saw your face when you opened the box. You looked like you didn't even recognize it. I flipped through the pages, and there, near the center, I found the name, written in my own handwriting. Silas. Dozens of times. Over and over. Like a chant. A warning. A name that wasn't new to me at all. And then another line, underlined 3 times. Don't talk to him again. He lies like he breathes. The room tilted. I sank to the floor, notebook trembling in my hands. I don't remember this, I whispered. I don't remember any of this. She knelt beside me. You did. Once. He came to you first. Years ago. Before me. Before any of this. You pushed it down. You buried it. My voice cracked. Why? Because what he told you made you break. You forgot for a reason. I looked up at her, searching her face for any hint of deceit. But she wasn't lying. I could tell. She was terrified. Not of Silas. Of me. You're saying I knew him, I said. She nodded. You're saying I brought him into our lives. Yes, she said softly. You're the one who let him in. I didn't move from the floor for a long time. The red notebook sat open in my lap, its pages fluttering slightly from the vent overhead, each one filled with jagged handwriting I didn't remember writing. Notes, drawings, fragments of phrases like, he's watching through the mirror, and don't answer if he knocks twice. Some of it read like a child's nightmare journal. Others felt too precise, too coherent, like someone else had used my hands to speak. Marin sat a few feet away, her back against the dresser, arms wrapped tightly around her knees. She hadn't said a word in 20 minutes, and I hadn't asked her to. Every breath I took felt borrowed, like I wasn't sure if it was mine to begin with. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was waking up inside my own life, but in the wrong chapter, as if I'd skipped over something I wasn't supposed to. Finally, I said, what did I forget? She didn't respond right away, and I almost didn't expect her to. But when she finally spoke, her voice wasn't soft or careful like before. It was low, flat, like someone remembering a bad dream that never really ended. You met him when you were 23, she said. Before we knew each other. You were still in Boston, working that warehouse job. You had that apartment near the train station with the broken fire escape. My breath caught. That wasn't something she should know. I had never told her about that place. I barely remembered it myself. Just flashes. A leaking ceiling. The sound of rats in the walls. A sense of constant unease. I thought I'd left all of it behind. He used to sit in the laundromat across the street, she continued. You saw him there every weekend. At first, you didn't speak. But one day, he offered you a cigarette, and you took it. You talked for hours. And after that, you weren't the same. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. How do you know all this? You told me, she said. Before you forgot. You wrote it in that notebook. You described every conversation. How he knew things he shouldn't have. Details about your father's death. The scar on your ankle. Your childhood dreams. He said he'd been watching you for years. That he wasn't the first to do it, but he'd be the last. I flipped through more pages. My own handwriting stared back at me with the calm cruelty of truth I didn't want. I thought I was crazy, I whispered. You were, she said. For a while. I looked at her then, really looked. So you're telling me I met this thing, and then somehow forgot about him? You didn't forget, she said, locking eyes with me. You chose to forget. You made a deal. One you don't remember because that was part of the deal. I shook my head. A deal for what? She stood slowly, walked across the room, and opened our closet. From the back, behind the coats, she pulled out a shoebox. Inside was a photograph I had never seen before, or maybe had seen, but buried. It was of me, standing in front of a doorway. Room 214. The same number from the motel receipt. Only this photo was older. My hair was shorter. My clothes were different. The timestamp on the back was from 7 years ago. You've been to that room before, she said. That's where you met him again. That's where you made the trade. What trade? You asked him to take something from you, she said. And he did. I stared at the photo. My hand was on the doorknob in it. My expression was blank. Not afraid. Not sad. Just empty. You gave him a piece of yourself, she said, in exchange for forgetting who you were. Who you really were. I stood up. My legs didn't want to cooperate, but I forced them to. What did he take? She looked at me for a long time, then walked past me into the hallway. There's something you need to see. I followed her. She led me down the stairs, through the kitchen, into the basement door, the one we never used. The one that had always been just a coat closet in my mind. But now it was open, wide open. The stairs beyond it weren't the wooden ones I remembered. They were stone, cold, covered in dust and symbols I didn't recognize. She stepped down into the dark without a flashlight. I followed her, every step feeling like it pulled me deeper into a truth I wasn't built to carry. At the bottom, there was a single light bulb hanging from a wire. Marin pulled the chain. It flickered once, then held. The room was small, windowless. The air was thick, and in the center of the floor was a wooden chair. Strapped to the chair was another photograph. Of me, but not a past version. This one was recent, maybe even hours old. I was sitting in the kitchen, same shirt, same angle, drinking coffee, staring blankly ahead. Only this time, in the photo, there was a mirror behind me. And in that mirror was a man standing over my shoulder. Thin, smiling, eyes like black water. Silas. Marin looked at me. He's never left you, Callum. You just stopped looking. For the longest time, I couldn't look away from the photo in the basement, the one taped to the wooden chair, lit by a single trembling bulb. The version of me in that image looked real. Too real. It didn't feel like a picture anymore. It felt like a threat, like a warning, like a portal into the version of my life I didn't choose, but had somehow still lived. And Silas, there he was again, reflected in the mirror behind me. Tall, thin, out of focus but unmistakably present. His smile was the kind that stayed with you after you closed your eyes. Not a grin, not even cruel, just knowing. Like he was always a few moves ahead, playing a game I never agreed to. Marin stood beside me, arms crossed, her breathing shallow. Her expression wasn't victorious. It wasn't even apologetic anymore. It was tired, like she, too, had been stuck in something far bigger than either of us had understood. I don't think she was ever evil, not even truly deceptive. I think she was lost, just like me. We had both wandered into a life shaped by things we didn't remember choosing. I don't want to be afraid of him anymore, I finally said, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me then, and for the first time in a long time, I saw her face soften. Then don't be. Is it that simple? No, she said, but it can start that simply. We burned the photos that night. All of them. The ones from the manila folder, the attic, the basement. Every scrap of him. Every silent watcher. Every hidden record of moments I hadn't consented to. We burned the red notebook, too. I had read enough. Remembered enough. I knew now that Silas was never just a man. He was a mirror, one that showed people the parts of themselves they couldn't carry. And in return for relief, he took ownership of the narrative. But not anymore. We changed the locks. Every one of them. Got rid of every mirror in the house. And yes, I know how that sounds. Superstitious. Paranoid. But I wasn't doing it for safety. I was doing it for control. A ritual, maybe. A boundary. I even returned to therapy, real therapy, with a real doctor. Her name was Dr. Selwyn, and she didn't blink when I told her about Silas. She didn't laugh when I mentioned the photo in the attic or the staircase behind the closet that didn't exist the next morning when I tried to show someone else. She just listened and said, "Trauma leaves many footprints. Sometimes they look like memories. Sometimes they look like monsters. The point is not to erase them. The point is to stop following them." It's been 7 months now. Marin and I live separately, but we talk. More honestly than we ever did during our marriage. We agreed that too many secrets had lived in our house for too long. Sometimes you can renovate a place. Other times, you just have to move out and build something new with stronger walls. And me? I'm better. Not perfect, but awake. I don't sleep with the lights on anymore. I don't check behind doors or keep matches in my pocket just in case. I go on walks. I started painting again, badly, but joyfully. I even rescued another dog. Milo loves her. Her name is August. I still think about Silas, of course. Sometimes in dreams. Sometimes in brief flashes, the moment between blinking and waking. But I don't feel haunted. Not anymore. I feel warned. And sometimes that's the best gift pain can give you. Clarity about the doors you'll never open again. So yes, she asked me at dinner, long ago, why I was so quiet. And I had said, because. Now, if she were to ask me again, really ask me, and really listen, I think I'd give her a better answer. Because I forgot who I was. And I've been finding him ever since.